Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. I don't even have my documents open. Welcome to the very last weekly reading report of the year. I've been doing this for 3 months now. Where is my document? Oh, this is... Why did I open Excel? I need Google Docs. Alright, yes, hello everybody, welcome back. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. It is... What is today? Today is the 29th. We're recording this on the 29th, but we're going to be going over last week. So this is the final weekly reading report of the year, and this is the penultimate video of 2025. There's only going to be one more video coming out after this before 2026. That one will be at the end of this video. You'll see what that is. It was actually a very good reading week. I got more reading done than I expected to. I had a bit of traveling to do. I had to go out to San Jose, spent about a week there almost. At first I was thinking that I wasn't going to be able to have a whole bunch of wiggle room. There was a 2-year-old and there's a 7-year-old who was there. All of the family, kind of about half of the family didn't show up, which was kind of nice because I kind of just got to be able to run away with my new Kindle that I got. I finally entered into the e-reader people. So I picked up my very first e-reader. I got a color soft Kindle, not the crazy one, just the 16 gig one. Excited to read a bunch of comics on it. That's one of the big reasons I got the color one. One thing that got me going to Kindle was I found myself reading using the Kindle app on my phone a good amount. I would basically have to put my phone into airplane mode whenever I wanted to read my Kindle, and then I would forget to take it off of airplane mode, and then everyone would think that I was ignoring them. So now, with having the Kindle, I can have a larger scale version of the phone one that I won't be getting. It'll kind of actually help me get off of my phone, which is a great thing. Let's go ahead and actually get into the meat and the potatoes of the weekly reading report now. We will start, as always, with the progress report on the Read What You Own challenge. Now, the Read What You Own challenge is a challenge that I embarked upon November 1st of this year, soon to be last year, oh goodness, where I need to read 12,500 pages of owned text, now to include ebook text, of books that I already own before I can buy any new books. There's basically one small caveat in that. I am part of a philosophy group that meets every other Friday to talk about different texts and philosophers and stuff like that. So about 1 or 2 books a month I have to buy for the philosophy group. That's fine. I don't really count that because those are basically just getting used instantly and they're good resources to have. And I want to stay relevant and go talk with my homies about Nietzsche and everybody else. For the actual progress report on this one, this week we added 913 pages of owned text have been read, bringing us to a standing total of 7,127 pages of our 12,500 page goal. 57 days into the challenge, and I was sitting at 57%. I believe it was like 57.01%. So we came up 7.3%, just over 1% a day. Since we averaged just over 125 pages a day during the week. At this pace, I'm exactly on point to finish up this challenge at basically the exact beginning of February. Okay, so let's take a look at some things that I finished. What did I finish over the course of the week? The first thing that I finished over the course of the week, which we talked about last week as well, City of Thieves by David Benioff. City of Thieves is kind of what I would consider airport fiction. I don't really read airport fiction, and I haven't really looked too terribly far into it, so I could be wrong in that, but that's how it comes across to me. It's very readable. It's very likable. It's constantly moving. It's a World War II story in Russia, coming of age. The stakes are very low, kind of. It's very personal, not low, personal stakes, because there are lives at stake. Essentially, these two youths find themselves tasked with procuring a dozen eggs to make a wedding cake for some person of authority, who basically tells them, you find these eggs in this amount of time, or I'm going to kill you. And the main problem with that, because you wouldn't think that would be very hard, the problem is it is World War II Russia, and there's no chickens, and it's winter in Russia. So just these two people going along, just trying to find these eggs. Antics ensue. It's a really sweet story. The relationship between the two is very endearing. Going towards one of the reasons why I call it airport fiction is because it never quite goes over like a PG-13 level in a lot of the elements that it could. It's not a brutal book. It's not a harsh, tough book, really, in any sense of the word. This is a very happy book in a lot of ways. It has you smiling a lot. It had me smiling a lot. It was just fun. It was fun. It was very fun, front to back, cover to cover. 4-star on Goodreads. I think I would really give it like a 3.75. It's a very comfy read. If I want to go, this is definitely something that if you want to go on like a Christmas holiday somewhere and you have a weekend, I would consider bringing that. This is the book I've been most excited about for a while now. Directly after I put that down, I picked up Hogfather by Terry Pratchett. Book 4, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Death series. Okay, so I went into this hoping and asking and begging and pleading basically for Terry Pratchett's version of The Nightmare Before Christmas. I know that Death is going and he's essentially taken over for the Hogfather, which is their Santa, as seen on the cover. And I did get that, however, I didn't really get that. The actual plot in this isn't terribly amazing, which I expected, actually. Most of my enjoyment that I get from Discworld doesn't come from the plot, like I thought it would when I first started reading Discworld last year. Now that I'm about 10 books or so deep, I find that I get most of my enjoyment from these from like the tone, the themes, the set and the setting, essentially, and like the reoccurring characters that come in here. My favorite character in this is the death of mice. So you've got death, like regular death, human death, basically, and he'll come and he'll pick people off and take people's souls away to wherever they go when people die. But there's actually a death for every single like species of things that dies, which is hilarious, and you get to see a couple of them in here. The death of mice, and all he says is squeak to everything. But all of the characters in the book understand him. So it's just like a character, Death, will say something to the death of mice, and it'll be like this paragraph of text, and then it will just be like squeak, 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 and then that was like another paragraph of text that Death understood, but we just see squeak, 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 and then he gets it, and it's hilarious. It's the reason I read Discworld. I love it. Another thing that we got to meet in this book, which was my first time meeting them, I don't know if they are in other books. I don't remember finding them in Small Gods, which is where I would imagine I would have found them, but we got to meet the god of hangovers, which a lot of times throughout the text is just it's not called the god like all of the gods in Small Gods would be, but it's called the O God because he takes on all of the hangovers of the world. if you're a young person and you like go out for a party and you drink a bunch of drinks and you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm young, I feel fine, I don't get hangovers. No, all of the he's the god of hangovers, and he takes all of those hangovers and has them all at once constantly. So he's just a walking wreck, and it's hilarious to watch, especially as someone like me who is just about 3 years into recovery. I haven't had a drink of alcohol in nearly 3 years, so to see the god of hangovers just dragging himself through life, it's very funny for me, and I relate to it a lot. On the heels of Hogfather, Christmas Day, I did my yearly duty, my yearly reading of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, seen here in a cute little, was this Seawolf illustrations? Never heard of Seawolf outside of this. Every single year, I read Christmas Carol to myself. Oftentimes, I go through and just listen to one of the many audio book versions of it. Most of them are around 2 to 4 hours. They're very quick. Hits me at the end every time with Tiny Tim. Every single time. He comes in and he's definitely my favorite character in the whole thing. And every single year I read it and I think it's not going to be the same. And every single year I think about until 80% of the book through, I'm like, oh, it's different. And then that last 20% of the book hits me and I'm like, yep, this is why I read this every single year. Read it next to the Christmas tree with a big joint in your hand and a cup of coffee or a cup of, mulled wine if you're an alcohol person. Hard cider is good for that. Tea for me at this point of life. I didn't actually get to this one, but we should put it in here. I talked about it all month. I wanted to get to a couple of the stories from Hark the Herald Angels Scream horror story Christmas collection from Christopher Golden. I've got 4 stories here that I want to get to, that I wanted to get to. I didn't find time, and you know what? That's okay. Even though I think this is the second or third Christmas in a row now that I have put this on my personal TBR and not gotten to it. I do like to read Christmas stuff in the summer, so maybe I'm not making any promises. So that's everything that I got finished. What am I reading now? One thing I picked up on my Kindle, the very first thing, I got a hankering in my head that I wanted to listen to the old last podcast on the left episodes for Adolfo Constanzo. He started a crazy Santa Maria offshoot death cult in Mexico in the mid to late 80s. It's this crazy ass thing with like a big old cauldron that they put like a bunch of sacrificial animals and like human animals if you want to go to the evil route with it, because there's the white path and the dark path, and these guys go the death route, and they're also like crazy drug smugglers into America. It's a fascinating, crazy, true horror story. The podcast series is like 3 or 4 parts. I think it's 3 parts, but they're like 2 hours each. And I listened to the first one over again. I've heard all them before, years ago when they first came out. I looked for the source book that they used to base their story off of, base their podcast off of. This is Edward Hume's Buried Secrets, a true story of serial murder. It's very exciting. This is definitely what I would call an airport read, because it kind of just speeds through everything. There's a little bit of speculation, I think, in there, but the reporting's pretty good. I looked online, even though I'm doing a no buying books right now. I did look online to see what a copy of it would look like. It's highly out of print, and if you want anything that's not a dog shit copy of it, you're gonna have to pay for it. So we'll see. So that one, I'm 200 pages in. That one is kind of shelved at the moment, so we'll see how that goes. I did make a little bit more progress in Bone, my gigantic 1,300 page comic book that I'm reading. And I've been reading for damn near a year, it feels like, at this point. At the time of recording, I am right about to be finishing up book 4 in this, which is called the Dragonslayer. It's the one that I talked about last week. I read the first half of it. This is excellent. This is really good. I am going to be shelving it again once I finish book 4. We're really getting into a point to where they're pulling a lot of fairy tale. They're like, it's really turning into more of a fairy tale than it was in the first one. So I'm starting to see a little bit of that traveling that I was talking about in last week's episode. So we'll definitely be going places. By the time this video gets published, I'll definitely be in a different spot than I am now. This coming Friday's philosophy discussion group is going to be on The Rebel by Albert Camus. So I started chipping away at this a little bit earlier on in the week. I haven't read any of this since before Christmas. I'm 23 pages in. So I definitely probably won't be completely up to speed on this by the time we have our discussion on this coming Friday. But I'm liking where it's going. It really breaks things down in a way that I should have expected. Because I was kind of thinking it was just going to be, this is the rebellion of, like, this is the French Revolution, and this is how it happened, and this is why it happened, and then there's a bunch of other examples like that. This is more breaking it down to, like, why people argue and why people disagree, and a lot of shit that actually just makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more approachable, and it's a lot more understandable, and it's a lot more agreeable than I told myself that it was going to be when I first picked it up. My expectations were broken once again with this. And what that really says, and a thing that I really want to pull forward with me into 2026, is less expectations on books. Because a lot of the books that I've put expectations on this year, they never meet the expectations, no matter what your expectations are. And that's not to say that they don't in a good or a bad way. But when things don't meet your expectations, whether it be good or bad, it changes the way you feel about it. And it changes the way that you see it, the light that you see it through. This I'm pleasantly surprised with. I'm really happy with this. I like this. And even though I'm not going to be completely finished with this by Friday when we go and talk about it, I look forward to essentially keeping this on my nightstand and flipping through it. I see myself gravitating to this and flipping through it pretty often. I am reading, and by the time this video is uploaded, we'll have finished the Hashish Films of Customs Officer Henry Rousseau and Tatiana Yukov Shuffles the Cards by Emil Stitya. If you saw the previous video, you would know this is a very interesting little collection. It's 2 small, like, prose poetry collections put to one. I have no idea where one starts and the other one stops. They're very good. They're extremely existential, I think is a good term for it. I think existential is kind of just a better term for poetry in general. It's easier to get existential with poetry. How do I explain this, like, quickly? Post-World War II hallucinatory prose poetry set in Paris. It's excellent. It's existential. There's these beautiful little vignettes that just flow in like the wind and then they're gone. These beautiful little glimpses. It reminds me of going on a train through, like, to San Francisco. There's so many little things that pass by, so many beautiful little things that pass by. This is that. It's easier to read than I thought it was going to be. I was thinking, since it's a translated work, Eastern European, I believe, I expected more difficulty than it is, but it's really just, like, soaking into me, and it's really good. It's really good. So what are we looking to read next? When I finished this little tiny book of poems and book 4, Dragonslayer of Bone, I am going to shelf bone again, and I'm going to pick up Boy's Life. Boy's Life by Robert McCann. I actually ended up reading the first 30 pages of this, but then I shelved it a couple days ago when I got home from San Jose. I shelved it because I wanted to pick up that little poetry book. I'm reading that as a little thing right before I jump into this. I haven't read anything past the cover and then like the first chapter and a half. I'm loving the way it's written. I wouldn't go as far as to say working class prose, but if you're a big Stephen King fan like me, this is going to be right in your wheelhouse. You're going to love this shit. I can already tell that I'm going to need to buy more Robert McCammon books. The second I finish this Read What You Own challenge, I am buying Swan Song, and I'm reading Swan Song. We have a server with a bunch of audiobooks on it, and I have Swan Song audiobook on the server, but I don't have a physical copy of the book. I like to merge my books. Immersive reading, as they call it. Everyone's got a different name for it, where you read the book and you got the audiobook in your head. I'm horribly dyslexic and I mix shit up. But so it really helps me read. My eyes get strained really easily, so I like to do that as well. But I try not to just listen to an audiobook and not have the book. I try not to do that if I can help it. I've always liked to have the book in hand. So, yes, extremely excited for this. Everyone who reads this rants and raves. It's one of those. So, I need to read this so I can reread this. I'm pretty sure, throwing this on, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have an immediate book of the year contender for like the very first book of January, which is going to make it very interesting and very fun to try to put up books in the future throughout the year that are going to have to contend with this. I am going to have to read some amazing books this year, and that is so exciting. So what are the next videos coming up on this channel? What can we look forward to next week? Like I said, this is the penultimate video of the week, of the year. We do have one more video coming out this year, and it's going to be a doozy for me because it's going to be the top 10 books of 2025. We get to take a look at all my favorites. Actually, we probably get to listen to me talk about how all of my books didn't get to make top 10 because I think when I first started making this list, I had like 20 books on it. So I might partially have to Brian Lee Durfee this video. We'll see. All right. Let me know what you guys are reading down in the comments. Cheers. Fuck it, we're rolling with it, bro.